Think we're about ready to start now. And guys, just a quick intro on my side. My name is Trifon. I work for Regiondo, and today we're gonna have Andrew from TourismTiger. He's the head of customer care there. And as you know, TourismTiger are the one of the few web design companies that actually focus on the tourism activities industry. So if someone knows about optimizing your website, it's TourismTiger, and Andrew in particular is going to go through quite a lot of tips and information today. Um, During the presentation, if you have questions, you can just leave them in the chat box, and at the end, we'll go back to them and we'll cover everything in a Q&A session. So that's about it. I'll hand it off to Andrew, and I'll turn off my screen for now, so I'll come back for the Q&A session.
Cool. All right. Thanks for the introductory phone. As you mentioned, I'm Andrew. For those of you who weren't here last week, I'm the head of TigerCare at TourismTiger. And what TigerCare is we maintain and service our clients' websites after we build and launch them. So part one, build, part two, launch and maintain. That's where TigerCare comes in. And before going more into this presentation, let's go into, again, a recap of who we are here at TourismTiger. So we were established in 2014 as a website design and management company, specifically for tour and activity operators, right? And we focus on building websites that don't go out of date by using our own unique system, i.e. TigerCare, that is continuously updated and improved. And we have 112 active clients worldwide. We actually added one since last week. We recently had a launch of a client. So it's nice to see that number jump up by one. So today, as Trifon mentioned, we're going to be going over Google Analytics and Google Search Console. And again, we're not going to go super deep, but these are two fantastic base data sets that everyone should be looking at. And for most of it, you don't need a super technical understanding, which I'll explain kind of the basics of analytics and Search Console today, point of this webinar. And once you look at those data sets, right, the idea is it's going to give you a few insights into, what's being done well on the site, what can be changed. And we'll loop it all back together at the end with a little slide on structure and flow of the site. So just keep that in mind throughout the whole webinar is we're going to go back to how this affects the site. So just a quick overview of Google Analytics. Basically, this is where your visitors are coming from and how they're interacting, or this is tracking where your visitors are coming from and how they're interacting with your site. Key here is it tracks the visitors, right? Breaks into traffic, looks into various channels of visitors to your site. There are, a good handful of channels, but we're going to focus on four today. They're just the ones that we most commonly see on our client sites. And what each traffic channel is going to tell you is how many people are coming, quantity, and how they are behaving, quality. I'll refer to quantity versus quality quite a bit throughout the webinar, but just so you know, it's how many people and how are they behaving. So the idea here is that they take action on the site, right? If I have 400,000 people coming to my site, but none of them are doing anything on my site, then there's no point of getting that traffic, right? The idea is to get relevant traffic that goes through and books or spends time on the site and reads about it. The more time people spend on the site, the more likely they are to book or contact or take some sort of action. Another thing we'll be looking at is page views. So which of your pages are seeing the best interaction? How much time are people spending on each page? Where are people coming into the site through? Which pages? And should certain pages be more prevalent on the site? We'll go over that. Lastly, with analytics, we'll look at devices. So this is really important because you want to know whether people are accessing your site via desktop or mobile. From a technical side, obviously you want to say, is my site accessible via desktop and mobile? Is it optimized? Does it work well on those from a technical side? Now, from the side we'll be looking at today, you want to look at, am I getting more traffic through desktop? Am I getting more traffic through mobile? Which one should I focus on more? And we'll go deeper into that when I get to devices. So let's start again with traffic. So as I said, we mainly see four channels of traffic, which are the ones I'm just going to focus on for this slide. And I think these are the four most important, honestly, because we see them more often and they tend to all perform a similar way. So your channels are going to show you exactly where your traffic's coming from, again, and how they're behaving, like quality versus quantity. So in order to access your channels, once you're in Google Analytics, there's a side menu. And on each of these slides, I'll kind of where I have these arrows here, that's going to show how to get to the data that you want to see. So traffic, you're going to go in acquisition, all traffic, and channels. And that's just going to bring you to a slide where you see all these channels. It'll say volume stats, it'll say behavior stats. So the four channels that we think are most important are organic, paid, social, and referral. These are the four most common we see. Um, and they're all different from each other. They all perform differently. They can all tell you different things about your site. So organic traffic, again, they're all kind of self-explanatory, but organic traffic is, are people finding my site through search engines, i.e. organically? If I type in, I'm going to switch. Last week I used Boston. I'm going to use Santiago this week. Let's say I do a Santiago tour company, right? And I have a tour of La Moneda, the presidential palace. If someone's searching La Moneda Palace and they land on my site, that's organic traffic. Are your online advertisements working well? That's paid traffic. So Google Ads, right? If people are landing to your site via paid traffic, the key here is how are they behaving, right? Very commonly with paid traffic, we see higher volume, higher quality, or higher quantity. Sorry, we see higher acquisition stats where they get a lot of users, a lot of new users, a lot of sessions. But when it comes to behavior, they don't perform as well. I should have mentioned with organic traffic as well, that's typically where we see the best behavior and the best balance between behavior and acquisition. Social traffic is your social media bringing people to your site, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, where are they coming from and how are they performing? And then referral traffic is, if I have site A, on site A, there's a link to site B. If I'm looking at analytics for site B, site A is going to show up under referral traffic. How many people are coming to my site from site A? That's something you should be looking into, right? Because certainly if one backlink's bringing more traffic than another backlink, you want to keep that in mind in terms of partnerships. Continuing with traffic, again, as I mentioned, we want to go through volume versus behavior. So with traffic, volume is going to be counted through users. It'll also say unique users, sessions, and page views. So the differentiation between users and sessions is anyone who goes onto the site is a user, but a session is anytime the site is opened, right? And it's from entrance to exit. We'll go over exit later. Um, but a session is anytime I enter and exit the site. One user can have multiple sessions, right? But one session cannot belong to multiple users. Page views, that's self-explanatory, how many people are viewing which page. Behavior, when it comes to traffic, is counted through bounce rate, average session duration, and average pages per session. So bounce rate, for anyone who doesn't know, is anytime I land on, let's say, again, my Santiago tour site. I land on my Santiago tour site and I look around, maybe I scroll around and I leave. If I leave without clicking anything, without taking any action on the site, that counts as a bounce. And the way Google is going to calculate this, you're going to see a percentage. And that's telling you what percentage of your traffic is landing, right, via whichever channel or via overall, what percentage of your traffic is landing and leaving the site without taking action. So bounce rate is a really key factor, and Google actually looks at bounce rate when it's looking into SEO rankings as well, right? If someone's landing on your site and leaving without taking action, chances are it's not super relevant to what they searched, or it's just not a relevant, content-rich site, which Google doesn't want to deliver to its customers. So bounce rate is a very important behavior statistic to look at. Average session duration is on average, let's take organic traffic for example. On average, you're going to see, how much time are people spending on the site. This is a session, again, like I mentioned, it's from entrance to exit. Doesn't matter how many pages they look at, right? How much time are they spending on the site? The average we see with average session duration is roughly 2 minutes. It depends. Again, it depends on the type of traffic, but you want to be shooting for 2 minutes. Honestly, you want to be shooting for as large of a number as you can get, because the more times people spend on the site, the more likely they are to, again, go back to CTAs. Like they're more likely to contact, they're more likely to book. Uh, and again, I should have mentioned for bounce rate, the average we'll see on I should like the overall site, we tend to see averages between 50 and 60, 65%. Uh, it's normal for your bounce rate to be a high number, but once you start getting to like 70s, 80s, then that's something to worry about. But you got to think as well, like bot traffic. There's a lot that goes into bounce rate. You obviously want it to be as low as possible, but getting a like 0 or 10 or 20% bounce rate is extremely difficult. And then average pages per session. Again, this goes into while I'm in that session, entrance to exit, how many pages are people looking at? Again, you want this number to be high, but in reality, if your average page per session is roughly two, that's a good number to be at, because let's think homepage, 4 page, book. That's two. That's only 2 pages right there. So that's why average page per session, it's likely that you'll see two, or you want to shoot for two. You want to see them going to more pages than just the first one they land on. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you want traffic that's taking action. Again, at the end of the day, if you have numerous quantity but no quality, there's no point. Let's move on to page views. So in order to access page views, you're going to want to go back to that side menu, and below acquisition, there's going to be a behavior. You're going to go to behavior, site content, all pages, and that's going to bring you to a page views stat. So volume here, you want to give more weight to unique page views, right? It's separate visitors rather than one visitor multiple times. I'm not saying overall page views is something you shouldn't look at. I'm just saying it makes more sense because you want to see, again, you want to see how many people are seeing this page, right? Whereas if I go on your site 7 times, it's going to count as 7 page views, but I'm the only person seeing that page, unless Google can't track whether I'm showing it to my friends or not via my computer. But put more weight on your unique page views. And then entrances are a key thing to look at with page views. You want to see where people are coming into the site, like landing on the site. So let's go to organic traffic. My Santiago tour company, La Moneda Tour, right? Someone searches in La Moneda Tour in Google and they land on my About Us page, right? That's not a good entrance because one, they were looking for a tour page, and two, while it's not bad to have About Us pages, typically you're not going to see people land on your site looking for your story, right? That's for customers who want to read more about you after they've seen a tour, after they've booked a tour with you. And you want people entering via your landing pages or your tour pages, right? When it comes to landing pages, and I'll go over this later. When it comes to landing pages, kind of your goal there is to direct them to a tour page, right? Your tour page is where you're going to get bookings. Um, if you have booking buttons on, let's say you have a homepage and you have various like cards highlighting the tours and you have bookings there, makes sense, right? But it depends on the structure of your site. So if all my booking happens on the tour pages, I want people landing on those tour pages, or I want people landing on a page that can direct them to those tour pages. You know, likely, if you have let's say terms and conditions, like I have highlighted right here. If you have terms and conditions, I'm not going to be looking for tours on your terms and conditions page. I'm going to be looking for terms and conditions, right? So again, with pages like About Us, terms and conditions, privacy policy, certain, resource pages, um, consider marking those as no index, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't want people landing on them, but you still want them on your site, right? You still want, if someone lands on my site and is looking at my tours and they want to read about me or they want to read the terms and conditions, they have to have that, right? But you don't want them landing, like you don't want them searching via Google and landing on your site through those pages. So if you mark them as no index, right, it's just going to say to Google, don't index those pages. Don't worry about putting it in search results, but it will keep it on your site. Now, something I want to highlight here is FAQ page, right? While it's not a page you want people to land on your site, don't mark an FAQ page as no index, because especially if you have an FAQ schema on that page, which is basically a schema is kind of like an outline of a page, and it tells Google this is what this page does, or this is what this page is about, is relevant to. So if you have an FAQ page, don't mark it as no index, because a lot of the time people will search questions. And if you have an answer to their question, it's not bad for them to land on your site via that. So continuing with page use and behavior, right? Look into how much time people are spending on your pages, right? And again, tour pages are the most important here. You want people to spend more time on your tour pages than anything else. Right? You want them to be reading the details. You want them to be identifying, is this the tour for me? Oh, okay, I'm set on this tour. What do I want to bring? When does it depart? You want them to spend more time on that. Again, it's if they're on your homepage, or let's say I have a Chilean tour company and I do tours in Santiago and I do tours in Patagonia. If people land on my Santiago landing page, which doesn't have any booking, but it just links to the tours, that's not a page where I want them to be spending a lot of time. That's a page where I want them to land and I want it to direct them to a tour. Right. Same your homepage. It's nice. You want to have, testimonials, snippets of testimonials, snippets of content, right? But at the end of the day, when people land on your homepage, you're trying to direct them to a tour page where they can book. Right. So your tour pages, you want most time spent on those. Your bounce rate, again, going back to bounce rate, is going to tell you which pages people seem to be leaving without acting, right? And pay extra attention if this page, for example, if I have a tour page with high entrances and a high bounce rate, that is a very bad combination, right? Because then you're getting a lot of people coming to your site via that page and a lot of people leaving without taking action. If you're getting a high entrance rate, you definitely want them to be taking more action on that page, right? So, excuse me. So you don't want to have a page like, for example, the About Us. If you have a high entrance rate on your About Us, chances are, depending on the structure of your About Us page, but for most of our sites, the About Us is a story about the company, right? And maybe a link to like terms and conditions or contact us. And then you're seeing a high bounce rate there. Like I said, that's a really bad combination, especially if, let's say, 90% of my site entrances are to my About Us page and it has a 70% bounce rate. That's really bad, because 70% of most of my traffic is leaving the site without taking action. And again, bounce rate will factor into SEO. Another thing you'll be able to see on page views is the percent exit rate. It's exit rate, but Google will show it as percent exit. And this will show you where people are deciding to leave your site. So something I should mention is an exit is when people are on the same tab and leave your site. So if I'm on my Santiago La Manera tour page and I link to an information site about La Manera Palace and it opens in a new tab, that doesn't count as an exit, right? That doesn't count. It only counts as an exit if I was on my page and I link to La Manera and it internally, it without changing tabs, it goes to that. So that's an important part of having your links open in new tabs to kind of keep exits out of the way. So you want to look at why would they be leaving from certain pages, right? So if you have a tour page and they click book now and it redirects on that page, right? And then the exit makes sense there because they're exiting to go to a booking software, right? Again, you might want to delve deeper into Google Analytics and set up, like cross domain tracking depending on your booking software. But at the end of the day, you should have your booking button open in a new tab so people don't exit, right? And then if it is an exit, it's not from booking, right? Or they're not exiting to book. So something we consider using is a heat map. We recommend a company called hotjar.com. They do like a free plan. You can get up to like 1,000 views and you can see 1,000 people come to your site. They'll track it and it'll say, here's what they did on the site. So a heat map, for anyone who doesn't know, it's think about this slide, for example, and this link right here is going to have a yellow circle around it because most people, again, it's the only actionable item on this page. So that's where I would see the action. The heat map will also tell you where people are scrolling, right? So on a slide, I can't do that, but on a web page, right? Especially If you have, a tour page where people need to scroll down to see information, which again, let's be honest, like most pages are like that. You can see how many percent, like what percent of visitors scroll down. So let's say your book now button is all the way at the bottom of the page, right? Not on a sidebar or not on a sticky. It's all the way at the bottom, and you look at the heat map, and it says 4% of visitors are scrolling all the way down there. That's going to be an issue because not everyone's seeing your booking button, right? Another thing, again, there's actionable elements. It'll show you where people are clicking. Do you have a gallery? Do you have an interactive video? Do you have an interactive element on the site? Something key to point out here is exit rate and bounce rate are not the same. They're both important, but they're not the same, right? So every bounce counts as an exit, but not every exit counts as a bounce. So exit is anytime I leave the site. Bounce is based on a single page view session. So I enter the site, I'm looking at one page, and I leave. That's a bounce. It's also an exit, but it's a bounce. Now, let's say I land on the site and I land on the home page and I scroll down and I think, oh, that tour is really cool. I click on that tour. As soon as I click on anything on the home page, even if you have a link that opens to another tab, that's like a random blog post about, La Moneda, that's not going to count as bounce because they took action on your site. So anytime they take action, as soon as it goes into that, we're into a normal session. And then once I leave that session, that's an exit. So now let's move on to devices with analytics. So the first thing you're going to want to do, and I'll touch on this a little more on this later, but you can link Google Search Console to Google Analytics. And I recommend doing this because it just makes it easier to see the data in one place. Right? And you can access Search Console via acquisition, again on the left menu, sorry. Search Console, and then there's devices. There's a couple other, there's landing pages, countries. Um, there's a couple things you can click on under Search Console, and they'll prompt you to link Search Console to analytics. So once you do that, you'll be able to look at this device data. Right? With volume, it's going to show you click-through rate. And for anyone who doesn't know, click-through rate is the amount of impressions that actually result in clicks. An impression is anytime someone clicks, or sorry, is anytime someone sees a URL to your site. And your click-through rate may be affected by average position here, right? So anytime your site shows up in a SERP, or sorry, in a search results page, it's going to show up, or it's going to show up as an impression in Google data, right? But people might not be clicking on them because they're not above the fold. So above the fold, for example, this entire slide right here is above the fold. Now let's say this slide was longer than my screen and I had to scroll down. Anything that I have to scroll down to see is below the fold. So for a lot of search results pages, you're looking at search results 5 through 10 are below the fold. So that might be, you might be getting impressions, but you might not be getting clicks because people are seeing other sites before yours, even if you're on the first page. Another thing that can affect this is the SERP features. So, for example, if I were to type up, Santiago restaurants near me, and you'll probably get this box on Google. It'll have a map and it'll have a few options. That's an example of a SERP feature. So that shows up before search results. That will push everything below the fold or lower. But your click-through rate, Google will look at as well because in terms of SEO and your average position, because they want to bring people to sites that are relevant. So the higher click-through rate you have, it means people are seeing your URLs and they're thinking that's relevant to what I searched, or that's relevant to what I'm looking for. I'm going to click through. Sessions, when it comes to devices, is going to tell you how many people visit your site via desktop and mobile. This one's really simple. But take note of the difference between these numbers. Perhaps your site performs better on mobile, but it gets more traffic from desktop. Right? Some builders, right, when you build on, it's one back end, right, and it can transfer to mobile, it can transfer to desktop, but at the end of the day, a lot of builders don't have the budget to purchase a site in mobile, purchase a site in desktop, and have two completely separate properties, right? So sometimes, like we have seen, for example, if you were here last week, you'll remember I was talking about transcripted content on mobile. You don't want people to land on mobile and see a huge block of text, right? Now, if I look at my Google Analytics and my devices are telling me 90% of my traffic is in desktop, I would rather keep the full content because most of my traffic is coming through desktop and won't see that wall of text, right? It's not necessarily isolating mobile, but you're keeping one in mind more than the other. And I will say here, mobile is a trend. So if mobile is not your highest, between mobile desktop, if you're not getting more mobile traffic than desktop traffic right now, you will in the future. It's a trend. It's been going on for years. We've seen it in our sites. We've seen mobile traffic raise from like 10 to 40% over a year, right? It's going to happen. So it's something to keep in mind. But for now, if you're getting more traffic from desktop rather than mobile, that's something to look at. Continue with devices going into behavior, right? So knowing how people behave based on your device can give you an insight into where you should be improving the site. So, for example, again, going back to this content, if I'm on mobile and I see a really high bounce rate on one of my tour pages, and I go to that tour page and it's just a block of content, likely that's why people are leaving. They just see a block of content and they think, I don't want to read this. I just want to see the details, right? Or where's the booking button, And then same on desktop, right? If people are landing on desktop and they're bouncing or they're not spending time, why are they not spending time? Look into that, right? And it's just dividing it between mobile and desktop. Higher bounce rate on mobile, something we've seen in the past is a higher bounce rate on mobile may mean that your site's mobile navigation is not set up well, right? So again, if people are landing on your homepage or those tour pages, the idea, or sorry, not the tour pages, the land, like the location pages. Again, let's go back to Santiago and Patagonia, for example. If someone's landing on my Santiago page and can't find a tour, or there's no like menu, right? They're likely going to just leave the site and say, "Oh, I can't navigate," right? So mobile navigation is really good. If you're having a higher bounce rate on mobile, we've seen in the past that navigation can be a big issue. And then your pages per session is going to give you an insight into which devices people spend more time on, right? So if I'm on desktop, for example, right now I'm on my laptop, I'm sitting here, I'm not in a rush. Let's take quarantine, COVID out of the picture. Let's say it's a normal day. I'm on my desktop. I'm not in a rush. I might look at more pages. I just might have the time, or I might be bored. I might just look at more pages. Whereas on mobile, you're gonna see people spend less time. It's just the trend of mobile. Like the whole point of mobile is that it coincides with speed and being on the go. Right? So you're gonna get more time on desktop. But if you're looking at mobile, you still want it to be a considerable amount of time. You don't want it to be like 4 seconds. Like, why are they spending? Or sorry, you don't want it to be like one page. Why are they looking at one page? On mobile, and are they bouncing? Sorry, I'm getting a call from my conserje. Um, I'm just gonna move on. So we're gonna go into Google Search Console really quick. Um, sorry, not really quick. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we're going to go on to Google Search Console now. And Google Search Console is going to give you insight into how Google interacts with your site, right? So analytics is looking at visitors. Search Console is going to tell you Google, only Google, right? Bing, I will say Bing is another big popular search engine. They have Search Console, they have webmaster tools, but we're going to focus on Google here because let's be honest, Google is the powerhouse. If you haven't set up Search Console or you don't know what it is, go to google.com/webmasters, right? And it's going to bring you to this page where it's two panels. One of the panels you can enter your domain, or one of the panels you can enter a variation of your domain, like www.santiagotourcompany.com versus just santiagotourcompany.com. And what you're going to do is Google will give you, there's various ways to do this, but the easiest one is Google will give you something called a TXT record. And it's something that you're going to put in your domain, your DNS records. And all it's saying is, it's telling Google that you have permission to access that data or that you are the owner of the site. So and then after setting up Search Console, obviously I said link Search Console to analytics. It just makes it easier to view data in one place rather than having to go back and forth in the platforms. As well, it does open up some, like for example, there is a page use devices like hybrid report that you can get access to once you link them. So with Search Console, we're going to go over a few things. First, we're going to go over queries versus keywords, right? So queries is what are people searching to land onto your site? So again, my Santiago tour company, if someone searches in La Manera Tour and they land on my site, that's a query in Google. But what should people be searching to land on your site is a keyword, right? That's something I put on my site in headlines, in metadata, in the content, right? So that La Moneda Tour page, I'm going to write La Moneda Tour as the headline or La Moneda Tour Santiago. And then if people are searching La Moneda Tour Santiago and they land on my site, right? That's a match between the query and the keyword. I'll go more into that on the next slide. Click-through rate, again, like I mentioned earlier, how many impressions are resulting in clicks, right? So Search Console is really good for click-through rate because it can tell you exactly like what queries are getting better click-through rates. And then average position. This is a good stat to look at. As I'll mention later, but this average position is something that you really need to look into. It's not something that you should just look at the average position and say, oh, that's what it is. It's something you really got to look deep into. And specifically with average position, you want to look for changes over time. Something I haven't mentioned yet. When looking at analytics, looking at Search Console data, you know, time frame is really important. You can set the time frame on each of these. Like on Google Analytics, it'll be in your top right. On Google Search Console, it'll be in the top, closer to the center. But setting that time frame is really important. If you are a summer-based tour company and you're looking at your data from let's say I'm in the US and I'm a summer-based tour company and I'm looking at my data from like November to March, right? That's winter, that's my off season. I'm probably not going to get good data for that, right? So you want to keep in mind what time is relevant, what time frame is relevant for your company when looking at all this data. And again, with Search Console and with analytics, what you can do is you can compare year over year, right? Or you can do custom data sets. You can compare the last 3 months to the last 5 months at this time last year. You can get really custom with it. So as I said, we're going to start with queries versus keywords, right? So Search Console is not going to list what keywords are on your site, right? But it will show you the queries that people type into Google and land them on your site. Now, if your keywords are done correctly, you should see a lot of match here, right? You shouldn't be taken aback by what people are searching to land on your site. You should expect to see your keywords showing up there, right? Especially if you got them in your metadata correctly, if you're optimized your H1 tags, or sorry, your H tags overall. If you wove your keywords into your content and you made sure it was relevant based around that keyword, right? So in order to access all this data, you're going to start by going to the dashboard on Search Console, which when you log into Search Console, it'll show your dashboard, and you're going to click on Performance. This is the only one we're going to look at today, just because this is the best place to start when you're looking at your data on Search Console. So once you go to Performance, it's going to take you to this screen. You're going to see a graph with multiple. It'll be four squares. It'll be clicks, impressions, click-through rate, and average position, right? And you can check on them and they'll create a little graph. We're going to go one at a time, right? You can select either of the four, but let's start with one at a time. I think like clicks, for example, is a really good one to start with, right? So when you click on one of them, it'll show you that graph up top, obviously, for whatever time frame you select. But if you scroll down, it'll show you exactly what queries, and it'll show you the clicks related to those queries. And you can filter them. I would say, obviously, go largest to smallest. You want to see the most important clicks first, right? When you're looking at those queries, right? And sorry, the queries are the ones that'll show up in Search Console. Again, keywords are what you put on your site. So are your keywords are the things that you have in your keyword strategy, in your metadata, in your meta title, in your H tags, in your headlines, in your content, in your alt text, in your file names. are those showing up in the queries that Search Console is showing, right? So again, back to what I said. If I have a Santiago tour company and La Moneda Tour Santiago is my headline of a tour page, and I see that La Moneda Tour Santiago is one of the queries that I have a lot of clicks for, that makes sense. Like that's something that should be happening, right? And another thing you want to look at are certain keywords from my site showing up in these queries more than others. So let's say I don't have a La Moneda tour, right? Let's say I only do tours in Patagonia, and I go through and I see that La Moneda tour has 500 clicks in the last 3 months, and I'm thinking, why are people landing on my site for a tour I don't have, right? Or again, you can look at it in a way that I have two tours that I really want to perform, that I really want them to do well. It's a Costanera tour and La Moneda tour, but La Moneda tour is, they have 500 clicks and the Costanera tour has 300, right? Why is the Costanera one not showing up? It relates to your keywords. Maybe the title isn't as good. Maybe you're using too competitive of a keyword for the Costanera tour, but not the La Moneda tour, right? So check, which keywords are showing up more than others, and then the next step here is to go through your site, right, and look through your site and say, and your metadata again, and alt text file names. Look through that and say, okay, where are my keywords showing up, and count it, right? La Moneda tour is on my site 30 times, and Costanera tour is on there 4 times. That explains the disparity between clicks, right? Obviously, if you have a tour that you want is your most popular tour and you want to rank on the first page for that tour more than any other tour, you're going to have more keywords there, right? But the key here is when you're looking through queries, you'll be able to see, right? You're going to see which keywords are here, which keywords aren't here, right, from my site. And then, are there queries here that don't relate to any of my keywords? So again, let's say I do the Santiago tour company and Argentina tours, right? Let's say that's one of the queries that gets me the most clicks. That doesn't make sense. Why am I ranking for Argentina tours? Why are people searching that and landing on my site? And again, you'll likely see a link between analytics. People might get a high bounce rate because they're landing on your site with unrelevant queries or irrelevant. Sorry. Again, relevancy is a big part of this. So let's go through click-through rate. So again, as I mentioned, click-through rate is the ratio of impressions that result in clicks. So if I have 4 impressions and 1 click, that's a 25% impression rate, or sorry, click-through rate. And your CTR can really help you gauge interest in your site. Right? So a good example is with metadata. Again, I mentioned this last week, but your meta titles are for Google and your meta description is for people, right? So let's say you're ranking really well with meta titles. Let's say my La Moneda tour is on the first page, right? And it's awesome. I'm ranking well. I Google my tour and I see that I'm on the first page, right? But I'm not getting a good click through rate on La Moneda tour queries. I go to the first page and I look and I see the results and mine is right there, right? La Moneda tour meta title. But then I look at the meta description and it's just, passive voice like this tour is going to go through the presidential palace in Chile, right? And then someone else has La Moneda tour, let's say a competing tour company, and they have, experience history with this astounding tour through the presidential palace of Chile, like the longest country in South America. I don't know. But active voice, like something that pops more to customers, right? Something to bring them in. That might be an example of, you're getting the impressions, but people aren't clicking through because it's just not engaging, right? And again, going back to this below the fold thing, maybe your sites are ranking, but they're ranking below the fold. So what can you do to push them up above the fold? Like you using SERP features, right? Checking your Google My Business profile. So keep in mind, right, when we're going through Search Console, right, that this is an in-depth look into your organic traffic. Those channels that I talked about earlier with analytics, right? Organic, social, referral, and paid were the 4 that I talked about. There's display, there's direct, but Search Console is organic, right? This is how people are landing on your site. So your CTR rate is not going to factor in any paid campaigns you have running through Google. Right? So keep that. That's just something to keep in mind when you're thinking about your click through rate. Is it's solely organic. And as I mentioned earlier, sites with a higher click through rate are going to do better in Google. Right? Google wants to bring their searchers the most relevant results. And if La Moneda Tour has a really high click through rate to my site, Google's going to think, okay, they're relevant. Right? It makes sense. And again, put yourself in Google's shoes when you're thinking of queries and keywords. Like Google does not want to bring their customers, or sorry, their users to a site that doesn't match what they're searching. So now let's look a little more at average position. So as I mentioned earlier, this is definitely, in my opinion, this is the most important Search Console stat to look deeply, deeply into. All of them should be analyzed deeper. But I think average position is the most important one to look into. Take time on average position, right? And again, how this is going to show up is it's going to say query La Moneda Tor average position, 29.3. That means I'm ranking on the third page of Google, right? So 1 through 10 is first page, 11 through 20 is second page, etc, right? So queries that don't show much change over time are nice. Like you do want to solidly rank for certain queries, right? But the best insights are going to come to you from queries where you see change. So this, and again, when you're thinking about search results, right, the first page, maybe the second page, but the first page is the most important. Second page is some people, I mean, think to yourself, like, when's the last time you went to the second page of Google for a result, right? So if you have queries that are going from rank 80 to 50, right, on your overall average position, it's going to show an increase. But right at the end of the day, you're going from 80 to 50. No one's going to see them either. No one's going to see that you're ranking for that query either way because sixth page, ninth page, it's no one goes that far into Google, right? So you want to look at queries that are falling in and out of those first two pages, right? And you want to think, okay, if La Moneda Tour, I was ranking on the first page, but according to Google Search Console, and again, this is a really good one to do comparative timelines, right? Because it'll calculate the difference for you as well. So let's say I'm doing May versus April, and April for La Moneda Tour, I was ranking third, right? That first page, third. It's probably above the fold. It's good. Now we're in May, and I'm ranking seventh, right? Why have I dropped in the ranking? Are there new competitors on the scene, or is someone putting out more robust content than me? Right. So you want to focus on the queries that are showing change, right? If I have a query that is rank 7 and stays at rank 7 for the next month, that's good. It would be good to bring it up from 7, but your primary focus should be on these keywords that are changing, either dropping or falling. And if a keyword jumps, right? Let's say I was ranking 7 and now I'm ranking 3. Why did it jump? What did I do? How can I mimic or how can I repeat that performance to get other keywords to jump up, right? So if you change keywords around on your site, if you change your H tags, for example, like I was talking about last week, if you look at your metadata, right, you should expect to see jumps because you're making those keywords more prevalent, right? Or you're making Google realize that your site is more relevant for the when people search in those queries, right? If you're matching the keywords to what people will search. And the key to looking through queries, again, I've said this a bunch of times last time, and I said it a bunch already on this one, just because I can feel this word, just being repeated so much, I'm almost losing the meaning. But relevancy is such a key when looking through your queries, right? If people are landing on your site, again, like if I'm doing the Santiago tour company and people are landing on my site via Argentina tours, it's not worth having those people land, right? On the off chance, maybe some of them are like, oh, I want to travel to South America. I want to go to Argentina, but I land on this Chilean tour page and I want to look through Chilean tours instead. Really slim chance that's going to happen, right? Because a lot of times people are looking for what they want. And if they land on what they don't want, they're going to leave. So there's no point if you're ranking for irrelevant queries. And if you are ranking for irrelevant queries, right? Why? Look into your analytics, like look into your bounce rate. Let's see, my La Moneda tour page has a really high bounce rate. I looked in pages, it has a really, really high bounce rate. Like let's say 80, 90%. Now I'm looking through Search Console and I see some of my queries are, snowboarding in the Andes in Argentina or something like that. And it just so happens that I have the word show like Argentina show up a few times on my La Moneda tour page, right? Probably not likely, but you know, we're talking hypothetically. But let's say I have the wrong keywords or I just have certain content that I don't want to be ranking for on my site. Google may pick that up in an off chance. Like it's again, if you see irrelevant queries, likely chances they're all over your site, not in one or two places, right? But you can look at your bounce rate and it'll help you think, what pages should I look for first, right? Again, my La Moneda Tour, I should be looking at those queries and then I'm looking at these queries in Search Console that I think like think about it. When you look through the queries, it's going to be pretty obvious what's relevant and not relevant to your site. And then when you find a query that you don't think is relevant, look through your site, like look through your pages. Again, going back to indexing your site, and if I go through my La Moneda tour page and it has a high bounce rate, and I also see that this irrelevant query is showing up a bunch of times, then we're going to start to see some dots being connected, right? And something again, like I haven't mentioned this, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but when you're looking through these data, like analytics, Search Console, everything, right? It is very important that you do not take one singular factor and put all the weight on that, right? The importance of looking at this data is looking at it as a whole, right? Looking at it piece by piece and saying, what does this do in terms of the whole picture? So if you look at one piece of data and you focus entirely on that, you could be affecting everything else, right? Or maybe you're looking at one piece of data and it says one thing, right? And then you like, for example, let's say I look at high bounce rate and I'm thinking, on my page, I see high bounce rate on Lemonade. And I'm thinking, oh, it's just a tour that people don't want to take, and I delete that page, right? But now we change it. We're looking at the queries. We're looking at a second piece of data, and I see that there's irrelevant queries that are bringing people to my site, and they're bringing people to my La Moneda tour page. That's two pieces of data I'm looking at. And now instead of deleting that site, I'm going to think, holy crap, I've been, using the wrong things to get people to this page. Let's switch that up and see where it goes, right? The whole idea of looking at this data is to create change. You want to make change on your site and see how it performs, right? It's not going to be a perfect process, right? But you want to look at everything as a whole. Now, let's tie it back up with structure and flow. Again, I've mentioned it various times in small instances throughout the webinar, but just keep in mind, like what you see from analytics and Search Console, I would say mainly analytics is going to help you with like structure of the site, via like page views, exit entrances, when you look at that data. But Search Console, again, going back to those queries, can really, you know, deliver, kind of like a moment where you think, oh, this makes sense now. And again, it's looking at those various pieces of data, right? So if you see high bounce rates, perhaps you need more interaction, you need more calls to action, right? Um, Maybe your booking or your contact button aren't viewable, like or aren't very visible on the site. Let's say I'm on mobile and for some reason the booking button is all the way at the bottom. And let's say I read four details and I think, okay, I want to book it. And then I'm scrolling through and I see tour overview, FAQs, reviews, like where's the booking button, right? It might be frustrating for some people. Again, mobile, the idea is speed. Pages that are getting more views, right, are likely one, more popular, or two, what we've seen is they're just easier to navigate to, right? So let's say I have my Patagonia tour landing page and I have three tours, right? And one of them is penguins, one of them is glaciers, and then I have a load more. I have Ajax on my site. I have load more, and there's another tour hidden behind that, right? Chances are these first two are going to get more views just because they're one click, boom, done, navigated to. But I have to click more, or sorry, I have to click view more and then see the other tour, right? If you have pages that you would like to see getting more views, right, take a look at how they're presented on the site. Take a look at what queries, are could possibly be bringing people to that. Again, look at analytics and Search Console here. So if you're getting again, let's say my La Moneda tour gets 5,000 views and my Costanera tour gets 3,000. But I look on my site and I see La Moneda Tour is way more prevalent, right? It's easier to navigate on the menu. Or let's say Costanera Tour isn't even on the menu, right? it's only on one of the landing pages, but La Moneda tour is on the menu of my site, right? So you want to look at how they're presented, and that can make you think, okay, this page needs to be put differently. Or if you want to see certain tour pages perform differently, try changing them around on the site, try making them more visible, direct people to them. And then landing pages, again, like I mentioned earlier, landing pages should serve the purpose of pointing people to the correct tour page, right? It's nice for people to spend time on my homepage and see, oh, a quick snippet about us, right? A couple of reviews, right? A couple of awards we've won. But at the end of the day, chances are people aren't going to book from the homepage. The idea of the homepage is see a little bit about us, look at our tours, right? Check out our tours, book one of them, right? The idea of the homepage is to get them to go to one of those tour pages. Another thing in terms of structure and flow of the site, like where are people entering? Where should they be entering, right? Like I mentioned earlier, chances are they shouldn't be entering on your About Us page or your Terms and Conditions page. They should be entering on tour pages, or they should be entering on a landing page that serves the purpose of pointing them to the tour pages. And again, even exits in this case, keep exits in mind. Where are people exiting? If people are exiting my homepage, right? What action are they taking before it's counted as, let's say the homepage has a high exit rate but a low bounce rate, right? Actually, sorry, that probably won't happen if they leave from the homepage. Actually, no, that can happen if they land on a tour page and go to the homepage. Sorry, I was trying to map it out. Let's say they land on a tour page and they just don't like that tour, and you don't have like a see other tours section, or the menu isn't clear, so they think, okay, I'll go to the homepage and find other tours, right? Look at your exit and see, okay, if they're exiting from the homepage after that, why? Better example is if they go to the homepage and they land on a tour page and they exit, why are they exiting? Do you have an easy to navigate menu? Is it easy to look at other tours? You have a section that says, check out these other tours if you're interested in this one, right? How easy is it for people to go throughout the site without leaving? So it's a bunch. It's a lot of data, right? It's a lot to keep in mind. But like I said, like the main tip is don't put too much weight on one statistic. You want to look at how they each play with each other, and then look at your site, right? And use that data to think. It's really kind of like a logical thought process, right? Bunch of people are exiting on this page. Why? Let's start up a heat map. There's no interactive content. There's no pathways to other tours. Right? Open those up. Create pathways to other tours. Adjust your menu so it's easier to navigate. Right? So thank you all for your time, for listening to me talk for X amount of minutes again in part two. Thank you to Regiondo for hosting this. We'll go over to TruePhone for questions, but if you can't think of any questions, or you don't have any questions right now, but you do have questions later, please feel free to send any through to andrew.simpson@tourismtiger.com. That's my email address. Um, and yeah, thank you for your time. I guess TruePhone, we can open up to questions.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Thank you on my side as well, Andrew. I think this was really good. And guys, we're now gonna go into Q&A. We already have a couple questions, but we take this opportunity because we can give you some free advice on these two services. And I'm just gonna go ahead with the first question, which is from Ayofe, and this is the following. It's about bounce rates. Andrew, you already touched upon this topic a couple times. And the question is the following: what if the information people are looking for is on the first page they land on? And if they leave, is this considered a bounce?
Right. So yes. Right. So if let's say, well, first of all, this kind of goes back to last week, right? If you're a tour operator, you don't want people, like, you want people to find information if you have a blog, right? But even then, the point of getting them to find information on your blog is to convert them to a tour, right? So if they land on your page and they're just looking for information, right, you want them to be converting to other things. Like, the idea is to get bookings, right? And if you're driving, let's say you don't have a blog and your homepage randomly, again, let's say my Santiago tour site has a random 10 things to do in Santiago, and I don't try to convert to my tours in any way, and people are landing, they see, oh, 10 things to do in Santiago, and then they leave the site. If they don't take an action, if they don't click on anything, that is going to count as a bounce. But again, like on a deeper level, you don't want people to be going to your site just for information. You want people to be going for booking. And again, even if they're going to a blog for information, right? It's good. You're a local operator. You know the best things about your area. You know how to talk to your customers, right? That's the point of the blog. But you want to convert that information phase traffic that's landing on your blog to booking, right? So if they land, they find information they want and they leave, it's going to count as a bounce.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Andrew. So is it safe to assume that all other things being equal, it's always best to have someone make at least one action on your site right after they land?
Yes. I mean, it doesn't have to be right after they land, right? Like I said earlier, like if people are spending time on my homepage, like for example, we've seen sites that like one of our clients is offers, they run out of France and they have tons of tours in tons of locations in France, right? If I'm going through their landing page and I'm on a location and I'm going through and I don't know which tour I want to select, like I'm looking through, that's fine. Like if they're spending time on those pages, that's fine. But you want them to click through. You want them to take an action at the end of the day, right? It doesn't have to be right away, but you want them to take an action. So if they're just landing on your page, and not doing anything, and again, even on a blog, right? The idea is to get them to read more, read another blog post, or again, look at a tour, or read about the author, or read more about the site. So you should always, no matter what page they're landing on, you should always want them to take another action.
Great, great, awesome, Andrew. Um, Next question was, and there were a few people asking about this, was about the recordings for the webinars. So, guys, just to reiterate, we're gonna send you the recordings after we upload them, after the webinar, as soon as possible. I'm hoping either this week or early next week. And you're gonna get both the first version and the second version, so you can review them in your own time. Um, and then afterwards, we have a third question. So, Andrew, do you recommend that less text per page is better, and that curiosity drives them to another page? So basically, hooking people in with something that drives them to the next page or to do the action.
Right. So I'll start with the less text. Again, mobile traffic is the trend, right? Sorry, I had a hair in my mouth. Mobile traffic is the trend. If your site doesn't have more mobile traffic right now, it will in the future. And I talked about this last week. When you have the mobile traffic, right? Or sorry, yeah, when you have mobile traffic, and I land on a site, and let's say, we agree, like there are customers who like to read a lot. But if I'm a customer who's just looking for the details, and I land on my site and I just see a huge block of text, it's a real turnoff for me. Like as a customer, I'm thinking, I don't want to read 4 paragraphs. I want to book a tour. Um, and again, like Google, especially with mobile, right? Google favors that transcripted content. Um, but as I mentioned earlier, like when you're looking at devices, if your site gets more traffic to desktop, right? And those people have the time to read. And honestly, on desktop, what looks like my entire mobile screen might be like 2 lines of text on desktop, right? So you gotta, it's again, everything in terms of data and this stuff is about balance, right? So if I get more desktop traffic, right, maybe I can still look at the content and revise it and shrink it a little bit for mobile, but I wouldn't go as far as just bullet pointing, right? Because there are people who like to read. Or, for example, like what we do is we take tour overview, right, where clients can write however much they want, and we'll hide it behind a tab. So that way, when it loads on mobile, right, it's not the first thing they see. They're not gonna find that block of content unless they're looking for it. And then the second part was the curiosity, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep, yep.
Um, so yeah, pretty spot on there. I think driving guest curiosity is a very efficient method, right? To get them to take another action, right? Explain maybe a highlight of the tour, right? So Santiago, La Manera, an interesting fact, right? Let's say experience the palace that was bombed in 1973 as part of a military coup, right? Someone might think, oh, that's a really interesting thing. Like, I want to learn more about it and go to the page. So, driving guest curiosity is a very good method to get them to take more action on the site.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. And Dean, just to add another thing, I completely agree with Andrew. And another thing here is the amount of text on the page will largely depend on the purpose of the page and the keyword that you're targeting. So,
Yeah,
for example, yeah, if you want to cover an educational topic, for example, the best things to do in your city, this would typically require a bit more text. If someone is looking at your contact page, you don't need to bloat it with a lot of text. It's just like your address and how people can contact you would be enough. um okay. um Guys, any other questions that come up that we can cover? Because if not, I have a couple of things that stuck with me. So basically, yeah, Andrew, just a very quick one from you. You started off with the different channels, the different traffic channels that you see that are most common. Um, Based on what you see with your clients, is there a channel that's more effective when it comes to sales? So I think you mentioned organic, paid, social, and then referral traffic. Uh,
right. So we haven't, in all honesty, we've seen certain, I will say there's trends in behavior, right? Organic traffic, by far, we've seen organic traffic be the best behaving, like, lowest bounce rate, highest average time, highest average pages per session, right? In terms of behavior, we've seen organic like consistently be the best behaving traffic on a site, right? But in terms of conversions, it really depends on your outward strategies, right? So a lot of time, organic will be the best conversion, right? If you're trying to get direct bookings and you have a great, a relevant site, right, and you're getting ranking for the right keywords and you have everything correct and you're doing everything right, organic can really perform well in terms of conversions. But in terms of paid traffic, if and again, even paid traffic, I'll say the trend we see on paid traffic is high volume but poor behavior, like 80% bounce rate, one page per session. Because at the end of the day, paid traffic is forcing, like it's not forcing. Like at the end of the day, I don't make people click, but it's forcing your site into search results that it might not exactly fit for. But with paid ad, the idea behind paid ads is they work for conversions. So they can work for conversions, but it depends. Like how many paid ads do you have out there? And with paid ads, certainly, definitely do kind of like a cost analysis, right? If my paid ads are only bringing in, 4 conversions a month, is that worth it? Is that money worth it? Social and referral, right? The conversions there kind of really depend on your strategy with social referral. Um, I will say, like, if and it depends on the blog as well. Like a lot of times, we've seen our clients bring visitors to their sites through social, going to their blog. Right? They'll say on Instagram, or sorry, on like Facebook, check out our new blog post about things to do in Santiago. Right? So it depends on your outward strategy. Same with like backlinks, right? If my referrals, and again, backlinks are a really good SEO strategy. But in terms of like exposure and bringing traffic to my site, you know, are my backlinks with relevant companies? Like we've seen customers that, for example, we have a client who operates out of a marina, right? And that marina has backlinks to their site, and that marina has really good search result pages rankings. Sorry, SERP rankings. I'll just say SERP. It's quicker. Um, and this site gets a lot of referral traffic from them, right? Because and they get a lot of conversions from those referrals as well because it's coming from a site that ranks higher. So it really depends on your outward strategy. But I would say if you're focusing on organic and paid, right, we consistently see organic be the best behaving. And again, as I mentioned, the more time people spend on the site, the more likely they are to book.
Got it. Got it. Absolutely. So basically, wherever you put your energy is where you would expect better results. And if we compare everything, if you're just starting out and choosing what to focus on, then organic has a very good chance of giving you some better behavior on your website, so people engaging more and
Right.
potentially booking more.
Especially, yeah, especially for newer sites. Um, like I would say honestly, like a really good social media strategy can help a lot for newer sites as well. Because if you think backlinks, right? You just might not have enough partners or valid partners to reach out to in terms of backlinks. And then paid, you just might not have the money to do paid campaigns. So if you're a new company, like social, it's you can run paid ads on social media. There's no doubt there. But I mean, an authentic organic social media strategy and a focus on getting organic traffic to your site with like a good kind of obviously keywords are a small part of it, but getting good organic traffic to your site can really help a newer smaller business.
Totally, totally. Perfect. So yeah, thank you to everyone who attended today, and Andrew, thanks in particular to you as well. Before we wrap up, are there any parting thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, thank you for everyone for listening. This is part two of the series. I really enjoyed doing these. It's fun, and I like at the end of the day, if you get one thing away from these presentations, that makes me happy because it's like it's not a great time for everyone. And I think just advising and helping where I can it really I like doing it. So again, like if you have questions, please email me. And again, if you have more deeper questions for analytics and search consoles, I should say, Google has fantastic help documents, like really good. They have tons of them. They have really good support. So if you have any questions that weren't covered here, or you want to dive deeper into certain types of tracking, right? Look, like Google is a great support source for that. Again, I mean, they're Google's platforms. They'll know the most, but their help documents are really good. Like we've found in the past. I don't think I've ever had a question that about Google Analytics and Search Consoles that I couldn't find in their help documents.
awesome, awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Sounds good. Well, yeah, that's basically it for now. Like I mentioned, we're gonna send the recordings to everyone who participated. Guys, one last thing for me: if you're looking for more information on how to improve your website and how to improve your marketing in general, on the Regiondo blog, we have 150 plus now. Uh, really in-depth blog posts about topics like marketing and direct bookings as well, and working with OTAs and all sorts of information that can help you improve your business. So you can check it out. That's the Regando blog. Otherwise, thank you to everyone who joined today, and we'll talk soon. See ya.